Welcome everyone to our diversity presentation. Before we begin our presentation, I think it is important to say that this topic is heavy-hearted, and we speak about it with the highest respect and concern it deserves. No child deserves to be abused, and for those who are, they deserve to be noticed and advocated for. As educators, the most impactful thing we can do to help children suffering from abuse at home is to be aware of the signs. We must be watchful and take into account unusual and mistaken behaviors because unfortunately abuse comes in many forms that are not always visible to the naked eye. The first step in protecting these children against chronic abuse and long-term negative socio-emotional effects is to be aware of the signs. It is not a clear-cut formula as to which children are being abused, however there are patterns, which I will discuss on the next slide. The four main types of abuse are neglect, physical abuse, sexual abuse, and emotional abuse. Most people tend to think that physical abuse is the most common form. However, only 18.3% of abused children are physically abused. This means that 81.7% of children being abused are not going to have physical bodily proof such as consistent bruising. Some signs that a child is being mistreated at home can be seen in their patterns of behavior in the classroom. Some of the behaviors to watch out for are hostile actions, the exhibition of low confidence, being either overly clingy or overly reclusive, and being afraid to try new activities. Not only is abuse heartbreaking and negatively impactful on the child, but it creates distance between them, the other students, and sometimes even the teacher. This is when inequity in the classroom occurs and leads to a child staying a dependent learner. As read in Chapter 1 of our diversity textbook, a dependent learner is someone who constantly needs the teacher's assistance, and this can last all the way until the end of their formal education. Outside of the classroom, a dependent learner does not have the cognitive skills to properly navigate real-world experiences. Therefore, it is the teacher's responsibility to ensure they are providing enough opportunities in the classroom for children to become independent learners. Next, we will discuss how socio-economic status and cultural diversity are related to the prevalence of child abuse. Throughout the United States, racial and ethnic diversity continue to increase, meaning there is increasing dissonance within the schooling system, and some professionals are unaware of how to tackle the situation. Also, the income gap is currently at its widest in American history, adding to the number of families who fall below the poverty line. Poverty is one of the issues most correlated with abuse at home for several reasons. Being of low socio-economic status, parents are sometimes unable to provide their children with basic needs, leading to unintentional but sometimes ongoing neglect. It is critical as a teacher to keep in mind that forming a positive child-to-adult relationship can go a long way in helping children who are victims of abuse. Some things as a teacher we can do to help these children are to provide snacks for the class, giving those who had to skip breakfast or don't have a snack a chance to eat. This example is just one of many that can assist neglected children and build a healthy, positive relationship. We have spoken multiple times of the importance of building strong connections with each of the children in our class. Sometimes this relationship may be the only secure attachment these children have. When talking about prevalence of child abuse, it is important to acknowledge that those most affected by this are individuals included in cultural or racial minority groups. As educators, we must recognize each individual child's unique cultural diversity to ensure we read signs of abuse and neglect correctly. Inherent biases towards students of color, especially African American and Latino boys, create educational inequity. Inequity means less opportunities are provided by educators to develop habits of mind and cognitive capacities needed to become independent learners. With all of this in mind, let's now talk about how the current issue of COVID-19 could potentially cause increases in instances of child abuse. The COVID-19 pandemic has potential for children more at risk of being victims of abuse, even those who prior to the pandemic did not experience abuse at home. Parents are more stressed, especially if they are unemployed, which unfortunately is a lot of families across America right now. This unemployment leads to not only increased hostility in the household, but also means that families are spending more time together than they usually would. To a securely attached family, that is good news, but to those experiencing abuse, more time with a stressed caregiver can lead to the worsening of already existing abuse or new instances of abuse, and there is no escape with school being online and care facilities closed. Not only does this lockdown affect parents, but it affects the mental stability of children too. Being separated from friends and relatives they may have been seeing regularly before the lockdown, they too are more stressed and anxious, which can cause increased cases of mistaken behavior in the home. This change in behavior can increase the hostile responses received by the child from parents who are unsure how to look after and work with the child full-time. As educators, one of our many roles is to advocate for and protect the safety and health of our students. Section P 1.8 discusses the necessity of being familiar with the signs and risk factors of abuse. We must be aware of and pay attention to each child, and if we notice something could be a sign of maltreatment, we shall not hesitate to investigate. As educators, we must be committed to the code of ethics, otherwise our practice is not sufficient enough to provide children with the care, knowledge, and respect they deserve. In conclusion, it is our job as educators to advocate for and protect our students. Being aware of the risk factors and signs of abuse can lead to the possible prevention of further abuse and the negative socio-emotional effects that it has on children. Knowing the code of ethics, abiding by its principles, and speaking up when something is not right are fundamental to the teaching profession. We are our students' protectors, and it is our job to fight for what they deserve. Thank you for listening to our presentation. Please feel free to take a moment to think of anything you would like clarified or if you have any questions.